And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I'm your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another SANFL Snapshot podcast. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are going over to the wonderful state of South Australia to talk SANFL footy. The SANFL women are over, so it's only the men that we will be discussing, but three wonderful rounds of footy. And let's welcome my co-host, as per usual. We'll start with the Woodville West Torrens super fan rocking his hat because he's super happy a premiership comes to the club. We'll let him talk about that in just a little second. Mr. Darce Evans, Darce, great to see you, sir.
Coach Donny, how are you? Phil, how you going?
I am doing
It was
just
just, it was a
fine.
fantastic to have a week off actually last week. It was a bye weekend last weekend, so I got my chance to watch my Carlton boys, and there was another heart attack done. They just lost having a shot at goal with the siren had gone and missed. So that was my weekend off. But anyway, that's football, and Carlton can come back.
Oy, 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 oy. And play crawler extraordinaire, Mr. Phil Aspinall. Phil, great to see you as always.
Hey Donny, hey Das, going really
Coach.
well. And yeah, a bit like Das, enjoyed a weekend off from SANFL, but managed to get my son involved in the Oz kick, the halftime of the Power and Sydney game. Donny, I'm not sure if you know the scores from that one, but yeah, we might leave that one alone for the time being. But my son, he was the star of the Oz kick, kicked 3 goals and had a great night on. Got to
Good
play
on him.
out on Adelaide Oval, which is something I never got to do.
Good
BOG,
on him.
BOG. I love it. Yeah, I kind of know the score. Trust me. A few on my ex account told me to go back to bed. So, so if you can't laugh, you'll cry. So, nah,
Yes,
it's
indeed.
fine. I'm happy. I'm happy for your little man. Ruben is fantastic.
Good on
I'm
him.
glad to see that he enjoyed it and that he had a lot of fun. So that is great. Let's jump right into it. But before we get into the last 3 weeks and talk about rounds 14 through 16 in the men's competition. Darce, I know you're rocking your Woodville West Torrens hat because the wheelchair team are grand finalists, beating Norwood in the grand final. I'll let you humble brag. Have fun. How awesome is it to see a premiership at the club?
Donny, they were absolutely wrapped. They had 2 years of heartbreak. They played in the grand final last 2 years and lost, and they've come out and actually, as you said, they've beaten them and got their first grand final of the belt. So it's fantastic for the wheelchair guys. It was just a fantastic night, and celebrations are probably still amongst us. Well done to the boys.
Absolutely fantastic. We will definitely have to make sure that search parties are ready just in case. So, all right, fellas. Like I said, rounds 14 through 16, we need to discuss. We're getting closer and closer to finals. Phil, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on the footy so far over these last 3 rounds?
Yeah, look, it's been a fascinating last 3 rounds as we, of course, approach the month of August, and then that sniff of finals is in the air. The weather's just slowly starting to warm up, and whilst we know that probably 3 or 4 of the finals, five has been locked in, there's still that intriguing battle amongst Darcy's Eagles, North Adelaide, even the Adelaide SANFL side have started to have a nice little run of form and playing some really good footy. So what's pleasing about it is with 3 or 4 rounds to go, it's still an open race. We know the fight for the top three is still on. Central Districts, Glenelg and Sturt and Norwood battling it out for the mixture of placings. So we've seen some intriguing results, some upset results of sorts, and Norwood's still able to unbreak that hoodoo of, I think, 7 years without a win down at Glenelg. And it's really shaping up to be a fantastic closing stages to the finals.
Darcy, your thoughts?
Oh, look, I'm with Phil. It's just I mean, being an Eagles boy, I'm just glad that North Adelaide lost the same games that we has as well. Because if they've won just one of those games, it would have put us equal. But it's just like North are on our tail, as Phil said, Adelaide are on our tail as well. So look, West Adelaide, they win the next 2 games. They could scrape in. It's going to be difficult. They are playing Centrals and Glenelg from memory, but we'll come to that in a minute. But just even a slight chance, West Adelaide, because they're coming okay.
That'll definitely be interesting, and it'll be fun to keep a track of it. Everybody's got something to do, whether you're at the bottom of the ladder and you can play spoiler, or if you're fighting for a final spot, is going to be very intriguing in the SANFL. So let's jump to it. Round 14 is the last round we have not covered. We'll jump right to it as the Norwood Redlegs get a nice win over the Adelaide Crows, 102-39. Port Adelaide with a little bit of a stunner, knocking off Glenelg 61-47. Sturt beating Woodville West Torrens 62-54. Central Districts Bulldogs beat the West Adelaide Bloods 71-65. And North Adelaide survive a little bit of a scare from the South Adelaide Panthers, 72-64. A fun round, a lot of close scores in here, but I gotta say the Port Adelaide upset over Glenelg is a little bit of a shocker. Phil, we'll start with you. Sorry.
Yeah, I would have thought that's probably the upset of the year to date because Port Adelaide, we know, are sitting at the bottom of the table, struggling to get any consistency, and I think look likely to take out their first wooden spoon in recent memory. So, yeah, that was a bit of a shock result. But Glenelg have started to, by their own admission, be a little bit inconsistent in the back half of the year. I think losing Lockie Hosey, their key forward, has mixed a little bit up with their forward line structure where they have to play Liam McBean in ruck and really shuffle the decks a little bit. So, as we know with the AFL guys, Port included, they're an interesting entity starting to get healthier at the top level, which is filtering back through to the SANFL side.
Darce?
Oh, I totally agree. When you see, like, Eagles losing, it's 2 goals to the top side or second to top side, Sturt, and then, like I said, West Adelaide, they're not a bad side. They only lost to 6 points to Central, so like, anything could happen for the last few rounds. We've just got to be very careful. We're playing Port this week, and if you see Port doing anything like they did to Glenelg a few weeks back, we got to be very careful as well. We're going to miss out on the top 5.
Yeah, the one thing you got to say though is the records may say a little bit different is a super competitive competition. Anybody can beat anybody on a certain day. It just
Absolutely.
really happens on what's the weather like, what's your team makeup, what's your injury list like. So it always is fun to see that. Like I said, it makes it intriguing because you don't go in the league going, well, that's easy, that's easy, that's easy. Like if your tipping gets to the point where you don't even have to think very much, then it becomes boring. So having that intrigue of Port nipping a team that's in the top three, potentially with a chance to win the minor premiership, it keeps everything exciting, keeps everything interesting. Unlike some tipping competitions where it really is it's no nonsense and you can do quite well. So we'll
And
jump
I
to
think the other thing, sorry, Das, the other
go
thing that
ahead.
comes into place, Das and Donny, is that like teams know that if you're not going to make the 5, shape the 5, and that's a saying that a lot of coaches will do and go into the season with. Well, if we can't make the finals, let's impact the finals and see, cause some upsets and put the cat amongst the
100%.
pigeons. And North Adelaide, I've dubbed them as the Jekyll and Hyde team for most of the season. They've got to be careful themselves because the other thing that comes into play, you hate to have to start relying on other results. Your destiny's in your own hands, but when you're relying on other teams to win for you, well, you're putting your hands in the fate of other teams. So, yeah, that's really going to be intriguing to see how that unfolds in the final rounds.
Yeah, it's always the toughest one when you have to scoreboard watch because it becomes
Yeah.
very difficult because you literally there's nothing that's in your control. You control nothing. The only thing you can control is your own team. If it's basically to the point where you win and you're in, it's much easier because if you win and somebody else has to win to get you in, then you win and then you sit in front of the television with your hands crossed, hoping that something
Yep.
happens. And
Yep.
that's very difficult because then it's very, very, very vulnerable for you as a team because you're hoping something else happens. So 100% with you again. Fantastic to see those results like that. To see those results like that because it keeps things interesting. Cannot wait. So round 15, Norwood starts off the round at Cooper Stadium with a solid win over the Central District's Bulldogs, 86-44. Again, the struggles for the Woodville West Torrens Eagles as they fall to the West Adelaide Bloods, 78-39. Adelaide with a strong win over North Adelaide, 93-55. Sturt win the battle of the top tier teams, beating Glenelg 92-72. And South Adelaide with a little bit of a shocker as Port Adelaide has a down week as they fall to the Panthers 95-80. So some interesting results here. Again, you kind of look at it and you go, well, the better teams have the better scores in this one, but South Adelaide, good to see them get a win. I know they've struggled this season. So, Darcy, your thoughts on this round?
This is the round I was actually stalked from a certain commentator up in the grandstands at Richmond
I
Oval. So
remember this.
no, I was actually lucky enough to be called up to help out the men's on the bench there. So, but it's good to catch up with Phil. Actually, we haven't caught up in person. We've always caught up on here. But I think
Yeah.
this one really hurt, guys. I think Source, he just said that this one, when we're losing to the top sides by 1 or 2 goals and we come out to a side below us and lose by this much, he reckons that one really hurts. So, but I mean, Nord showed their might again against the Bulldogs. The previous week, they actually smashed the Crows. So you can see what Nord are doing this year. Again, the Crows sort of up and down. Being North Adelaide, was that an upset? Probably, Crows are up and down depending on their injuries. And look, Sturt, I mean, they're sitting second, beating the Tigers. Port Adelaide, again, they've come from a massive win the week before, then come out lose that to South Adelaide, who are sitting second bottom. So that was again an all over the shot, that one, that round.
Phil?
Yeah, and apart from the highlight of meeting Darcy in person, I think if you're an Eagles fan, the second biggest highlight would have been probably the chips and gravy and the caravan out the back, because the Eagles were outclassed. And take nothing away from West Adelaide, I've seen a bit of them this year, both live and on replay, and that was probably as good as they've played in 2 or 3 seasons. So credit where credit's due, but the Eagles were their own worst enemy. They were second to the footy, and Sam Jacobs, I know after the game, was very disappointed. So I know, speaking of disappointment, Coach Paul Thomas was very disappointed with Central Districts, because he saw that as an opportunity to test themselves against a side that was in great form, atop of the table, and Centrals were just outclassed by a very impressive Norwood side. So that showed, I think some of the results showed that the sides that were thinking they were going okay have still got a bit of room to improve. And South Adelaide, as you said, great to see them get a win. North Adelaide, their Jekyll and Hyde season continued. They beat South Adelaide in Victor Harbour the week before, when I went down there to the nice coastal seaside town, and then come out and get trounced by Adelaide. So a bit of a topsy-turvy round, and some intriguing results nonetheless.
Definitely, for sure. It keeps things interesting. As soon as, like I said, you never know what's going to happen from round to round, which makes it intriguing, makes it must-watch footy for sure. Absolutely.
Yep.
So we'll jump to it. The final round that we have not talked about. I know this is kind of short when it comes to the reviews, but I wanted to be sure that we got one more podcast in before we get to the finals preview, because I believe there's 3 more rounds after this, and then we'll do a nice big finals preview for the next podcast. So just a little bit of update on that one. So why it's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, but explaining why. So round 16 sees a shocker a little bit, as the up and down Tigers find a way to win, to beat the Norwood Red Legs impressively, 81-47. Little wayward kicking by the Red Legs. There's probably making their coach pull his hair out on that one. Central District's Bulldogs get a nice impressive 12-point win over the North Adelaide Roosters, 74-62. Sturt beats the Port Adelaide Reserve 68-45. South Adelaide with 2 in a row as they knock off the Bloods 71-50. And unfortunately, Woodville West Torrens struggles continue as the Adelaide Reserves knock off them by 16, 76-60. I mean, let's go right to it. I mean, most people will have to talk about near top of the table clashes. Glenelg, a little iffy the previous 2 weeks, but with an impressive win over Norwood, who is looking like a very dominant top of the table team. Phil, we'll start with you.
Yeah, as I touched on a few moments ago, a bit of a hoodoo down there for the Redlegs, having not won at Gliderol or Stratorama Stadium for 7 years now. So some sides get that little bit of a run on where they just can't get the win on the road. And I think Central Districts this week are up against like an 11-year record against the Double Blues out at Unley. And I think the real Glenelg Footy Club stood up on this occasion, and Norwood, yes, inaccurate, but outclassed and outworked. And when Liam McBean is up and about, the captain of the Tigers, he kicks 6 goals. When he kicks 6 goals, Glenelg generally win, regardless of whether Luke Reynolds and Lockie Hosey are there or firing. McBean is a real barometer for them. And I think it showed that Norwood perhaps had a little bit of work to do. They were killed in the midfield in the stoppages, and they certainly didn't have the defence, who've been the best miserly defence all season. They really didn't have the defence to go with the Tigers. So Darren Reeves was ecstatic with the win, and it just gets the Glenelg's top 3 chances back on track.
Darth?
I think you're right, Phil. I mean, you say that Glenelg had as a topsy-turvy, they're up and down, and you can see from their last 6 games they've won 3, lost 3, but then they come out to a top side and sort of quite clearly beat them quite easily. So that was to me, that was an upset, that one. So, but again, we did see Eagles. They were leading for most of the day, and just that last quarter got again. So that was their 5th loss in a row from what I can gather. So that was not a good. So we got Port this week. I presume we're going to go through in a minute, but that's a bit of a scary game for us. But I mean, all the other games, South over Bloods, probably a bit of an upset considering the Bloods. We beat the Eagles, I should say, the week before. So apart from that, I think good win by Centrals and a good win by Sturt.
Yeah, courageous win from Centrals, guys. I called that one on the SANFL Now stream with former Adelaide Crow Eugene Warrior, and Centrals were challenged. North Adelaide are a good side. We know they're a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde side, and the scores went to goal for goal throughout most of the contest, and it was not if not for the last, I think, 7 minutes where Centrals put on a real burst in the final quarter, and Aiden Grace and Isaiah Dudley stood up and kicked 3 and 4 goals respectively. And Central showed that, when they're challenged, they've certainly up to the task. So a great win for them. As you said, Darcy, a bit of a poor performance again from the Eagles. And South Adelaide, well, on the back of that win, they're showing some faith in coach Jared Wright. I would have thought that the South Adelaide coach, Jared Wright, would be the most under pressure SANFL coach in the competition. And you speak to some pretty loyal long-term South people, and they'd suggest that he might not be there next year. But just today, they've announced he's signed a 2-year contract renewal. So great for Jared and South Adelaide to have that stability. And I think that's on the back of South playing some pretty good footy in the last fortnight.
I think the stability is spot on for the stability. They need that for sure. They've been up and down all the last 10 years. You look back and what's going on up there down at Panther Park.
Yeah, and they were just looking at the results. I mean, you win your last 2. Yeah, you'd lost 4 in a row before that, but it's not like South Adelaide's playing horrible footy. It's just a situation where the list build the way it was this year and things like that. So it's a little encouraging that you see a coach towards the bottom of the ladder getting a little bit of confidence from the club, saying, "Hey, we think you're starting to build something. We're gonna put our trust into you." So I as a coach, I appreciate that for sure. But I wanted to do something. I wanted to go through the form ladder just really quickly on this, just because we do have short. And I didn't even realize it, but the crazy fact that Sturt right now is just flying up. They are on a tear. That's 10 in a row, and 11 of their last 12 in this season. They're absolutely in fuego right now. And Norwood, unfortunately, is letting them back in with them losing three of their last 8. So the 5 and 3 in that same time span. So, I mean, Sturt is in this chance for the minor premiership because Norwood has kind of let the cat back through the window here. I mean, thoughts on this, because that's insane.
Yeah, look, without a doubt, 10 wins in a row. That's, not very often you'll see that at SANFL league level, because as we know, the season's a bit of a marathon and not a sprint, and you're going to have injuries. And I think the Double Blues would be the first to admit they weren't the most active in the off season from a recruiting perspective. But when they get someone like a Will Snelling, who, mark my words, he'll win the McGarry medal. He's been the most dominant player in the competition this year. He averages 30 odd possessions. He'll get 3 votes most weeks that he's playing. And, the Double Blues are a fine federal football club. And I actually have them right now as the premiership favourites for mine. I know Norwood are top of the table, but Sturt have the X factor about them. They've got consistency across the park, and Marty Matner is a damn good coach. And I think the Double Blues are in prime position to go deep into September.
Mm-hmm. Darcy, your thoughts?
Did they sign Marty Matner too? Phil, I think they did another year.
He did. Yep.
They did.
Another 2 years, I reckon. Yeah.
2 years. Yeah. That, as they should. He's a brilliant coach, and I think the Sturt love him and everything. But you look, we're just going back to the beginning of the season. Sturt lost their first 3 out of 5, and then even Glenelg, who was sitting third, lost the first, 2 out of the first 4 games. So they started off pretty poorly, but then they've just gone, okay, let's put the foot on the accelerator, and just gone great guns since then. But Centrals, they're there as well. So because they won their first 5 games, they did lose 3 in a row, but come back quite nicely. They're equal with Glenelg on 10 wins and 5 losses.
Yeah, it's just I was looking at the farm line. It was just like, and it's, oh my gosh, there's 10 in a row. So it's super impressive the way their season has gone. I agree with you. In fact, actually, that's a great transition right into my first burning questions, because I looked at the ladder, and like I said, both teams in Norwood and Sturt are 15 and 3. They are the top of the table. They are deadlocked. The only thing separating them is minuscule percentage. It's 59.27 for Norwood. 59.06 for Sturt. So I asked you this, and you kind of answered it, Phil. So we'll start with Darce on this. Which team do you see having the best chance to be minor premiers after the last 3 rounds of the season? Because it's tight. I mean, it is very, very tight. As much as I'd love to see Glenelg and Central Districts get into the fight, I think the 2 games back with 3 games left is going to be difficult to catch up. So it's Sturt and Norwood. Between the 2 of them, does Sturt's form make you think Sturt's got it, or is Norwood just too good a side? They're going to be able to win enough games to keep Sturt back just a little bit. Your thoughts, Darce?
Yeah, Donnie, I think Norwood are just that little bit better than Sturt. I think that last game against Glenelg where they lost, I think they I think even we were saying before that they just don't play well at Glenelg for some reason. It's just what must be that monkey on the back that just it won't go away. I just still think Norwood's that better side. They've won by. I thought I thought the percentage would have been a bit higher than that, but obviously it's not. But Sturt must have done something because again, they lost the first 3 out of the 5, so the percentage must have increased substantially then. But when Norwood win, they win big games. That's why I think Norwood are just that better side to take out teams when they do play them.
Mm-hmm. Phil?
Yeah, and I think having a look ahead as well, and of course Sturt have Central this week, who you'd have to pencil them in for the win with that. The 11 years, I think, without a win out there for the Dogs means that Sturt would go in favourites, you would have thought. But then the Double Blues have West Adelaide and Adelaide to finish the season.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, Norwood, as I just looked down at their next couple of weeks, they've got South Adelaide this week at home. You'd think they'd win that. They then play the Roosters at home on a Friday night. You'd probably pencil them in for that. So this is really going to be a real toss of the coin. And then I was about to say Darcy's boys to finish the year, and it might be that the two sides in that last round are playing for the minor premiership. So I think you can literally take a coin out of your pocket, flip it, and it's going to be a head or tail for which side of the two win the minor premiership. Look, at the end of the day, we all know that come the end of the season, your name will go up on the honour boards as finishing minor premiers. But as long as you finish top 3, you get the double chance. That's all Marty Mattner would want. That's all that Jade Rawlings will want. That's all that any coach would want that's fighting for a finals position. So, again, that saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You've just got to pace yourself to get through to finals. You want to qualify in the best position possible. And, don't want to bring up the past too much for Das, but Central Districts were absolute masters of doing that in the 2000s. They'd get through the season unscathed. They'd get into a second semi-final. Routinely, they'd take care of the Eagles. They'd get into a grand final, and they were prime at the business end of the season. So it's the team that manages their load the best. And you've got to have some luck, guys. You've got to have a lack of injury concern. You've got to have, the form, the ladder going your way, the fixture going your way in terms of who you play. But yeah, right now, whilst I'm just leaning towards the Double Blues to finish minor premiers, I think it's going to be a great finish to the year.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm 100% with you. I was as you were saying that, I was looking through and I was like, if you look at it when it comes to it, you would think Norwood has the easier run home, but again, Sturt, basically, I think it's all going to come down to the Central District's game. If for any reason they drop it, I think Norwood's in the box seat again, but South again has shown that they can nip teams if you take them lightly. So I honestly agree with you. This is a coin toss. This is one of those. Each week could be interesting. It's going to be fascinating to watch these final 3 rounds in the SANFL men's competition because I think it is going to be fantastic footy. Cannot wait for it. We'll go from the top of the table now to the bottom of the finals part with 3 rounds left. There are 3 teams fighting for that coveted 5th position in the finals as we see North Adelaide, the team outside looking in, and West Torrens and Adelaide fighting with it as well. Never mind. Adelaide and North Adelaide are the teams just outside. West Torrens holding that final spot with a mighty grip, but knowing only a game difference between the two. What team do you think gets this final spot of those 3 teams? Or does West Adelaide jump out of nowhere and shockingly hop into the finals, though they are 2 games back? Phil, we'll start with you.
Yeah, look, I'll get in early and make Darcy, I think, a happy man. And I think despite their form run of 5 losses, I think the Eagles are too good a side to not play finals this year. Having a brief look at the remaining sides fixture, if anyone's going to cause the stir and get through, maybe Adelaide. They play Port Adelaide. They play West Adelaide this week. So they've probably got a slightly easier run. But, yeah, the Eagles are a good football side. They've got some players coming back from injury. And no doubt Sam Jacobs has probably got a bit fed up with losing 5 on the trot. And he might find himself going from that, nice guy to the slightly getting a bit of anger about him as a senior coach. He's a redhead. They say redheads are fiery. He needs to show that. So, he's a good coach. We know that he's certainly had his side off to a good start. And the Eagles are too good a side for mine to not play footy. You can't bank anything on North Adelaide. They're too up and down for mine. I think they've probably got some issues on field and off field. I think there's some players that will be looking to move on. I've heard Jacob Surgeon might not be there next year, so interesting to see what transpires there. And West Adelaide, they lost last week against South Adelaide. If they'd won, I'd probably be saying watch out for them as well, but they're probably just a little bit too far behind the 8 ball. So I think the final 5 actually stays as it is, although I think Sturt might be a chance to sneak up to top, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Norwood, Sturt, Glenelg, Dogs and the Eagles make out the 5.
All right, Darcy, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I am with Phil. I take my Eagles hat off here because I'm just looking at this week's game. We're playing Port, who are bottom and they haven't had a good year. I'm hoping that this is their off day this Saturday, not their on day. That's what I'm. And then look, you've got North Adelaide who are behind us. They're playing Glenelg, so we're thinking, well, Glenelg, good side. They'll probably knock off North Adelaide. Hopefully, put us 2 games clear in fifth spot. That will take us out for the rest of the year. But we do have Nord in the last round, which is going to be a tough game, but it is at home, so we hope we can finish the year off well against Nord to
Mhm.
finish the year off. We get 2 games clear this week, hold that position, then hopefully if we beat North the last game at home, that could put us in stead for the finals.
Yeah, I'm with you, Darsh, on that. I think the caveat will be is the 2 games before the Norwood game. If you win both, I think you're
Yep.
in. I think if you
Yep.
lose one, then you're in a little bit of trouble, depending on how North and Adelaide do. Again, I think Adelaide's AFL side's getting a little bit healthier, so maybe you could see them get a few troops that have had to go up and fill out the AFL spots potentially. But again, there have been a lot of inconsistencies when it comes to it with all of the sides underneath you. So I think Woodville West Torrance gets in, but it'll be interesting. That the bottom of the ladder, just as much as the top, is going to be quite the interesting conversation and quite the interesting watch over these last 3 rounds. It's going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to keeping an eye on these scores to see who are going to be the 5 that are going to have the chance to battle for a premiership in the SANFL. So let's
One
jump.
closing point on that burning
Sure.
question, Darcy, is what makes it fascinating, and you touched on it from the start, is it's going to be an open race. It's not going to be, oh, well, this week we know the final 5 and you're just playing for minor positions. So,
That's it.
we've seen it in years gone by. I can remember when I was calling a Centrals game against the Eagles at Elizabeth, at Woodville rather. They caused a bit of an upset. They got over the line, but they needed Glenelg to beat West Adelaide at Richmond, and all the Dogs fans went into the Eagles club rooms and watched the game on TV. Because if Glenelg got up, percentage mean the
I
Dogs got
remember
in, and
that. It
Mhm.
yeah,
was.
so you'd want it to go down to the wire. You don't
Yep.
want a bit of knowing the season's over before it's kind of finished. So
Mhm.
you made a good point, Donny. I think it's fascinating to see that it's still an open horse race.
Yeah. No, and that's one of those that I've said it a few times on my AFL shows. I said, so when you go into that final round and pretty much it's over, there's no intrigue. There's no
Mm,
excitement that you don't go into that round going, be very interesting. Like I remember last year going into that final round going, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Like you
yeah,
had no idea. And it comes down to percentage. Those are the most exciting. It's where you see the live ladder pop up on the bottom part of the corner, and you're
yep,
so intrigued. You're like, the goal, what happens? So you
yeah,
look at the
yeah,
bottom to see how that goal has changed it. A behind kick, what happened? So
yep,
it's the weirdest thing, but it really makes it even more interesting. And when you have a chance where it's like all 5 spots are still there's no guarantee that you're going to your be where your ladder position is right now. So
mm,
it's always fun to be able to go, okay, so if this team wins, this team wins, this team wins, how is it? Like it's like playing ladder predictor on the AFL website. Sometimes it's
yep,
hilarious to see like if I change one result, how would that change everything? And it's always so much fun. So it'd be
yep.
so much fun if the essay had the ladder predictor. I don't think they do, but
No,
it would be fun to go through like, okay,
Yeah.
if Norwood wins this one, but loses this one, how would it go? So it's always interesting. But I'm excited. I think that you love the intrigue. It keeps everything fascinating. I cannot wait for these final 3 rounds. It's going to be interesting for sure. I'm hoping for you, Darce, that Woodville West Torrance at least plays a little bit better. I know Sauce
Yep.
Jacobs is probably pulling that lovely red hair out with the 5 losses, unfortunately. Hopefully, he gets his gimme here against Port Adelaide. Hopefully, I'll touch wood that I didn't just jinx him. So we will have to see. So let's jump to round 17. We will do tipping and talk about that really, really quickly. We'll jump to Cooper Stadium Friday night footy as we see the Norwood Redlegs host the South Adelaide Panthers. And this one, I will start with you, Darce. Tipping, who do you like? Norwood, South Adelaide.
I can't. Sorry, who's playing? For some reason, it's not showing round 17 on here, guys. So who's?
Round
uh,
17, we'll start with game one, Friday night footy, Norwood v South Adelaide, game one.
I think Nord are going to win very comfortably here. Very hard Nord on a Friday night. Under lights, they love it under lights. There in front of a huge crowd. They get there Friday nights after work, and I think it's going to be a big win by Norwood.
All right, Phil.
yeah, Norwood comfortably. I'd suggest a percentage booster for them. They're in a bit of a battle for percentage with the double blues, and South have a funny way of causing some upsets at different times throughout the year. And I've called some close South North Norwood games over the journey at Cooper Stadium, but Norwood by about 8 goals for mine.
I would tip Norwood, but I agree with you. This is one of the scary ones. Norwood cannot take them lightly. If they take them lightly, South can be quite the pain. Tipping
Yep.
Norwood, South, it'd be interesting to watch them how that first half goes. If they can stay in it, put a little bit of fear into the Red Legs, how things could go. So tipping Norwood, hoping South makes it a competitive game. And that one, we jump to Prospect Oval as North Adelaide hosts the Glenelg Tigers in the first in another Friday night footy, both at the same time, at least according to my things on this. Interesting double Friday night header on this one. So Phil, we'll start with you. North Adelaide, Glenelg. Who gets the Chalkies?
Yeah, I've got this one at being Saturday at Prospect, so I'm not sure if there's a bit of a change to the fixture there. But these two sides, modern rivals from the 80s. I know they hated each other throughout some pretty fierce grand finals. So you got to say on form, it's got to be Glenelg. Glenelg are a good football club. They proved that against Norwood the week before. North Adelaide, again, not sure if they're going to wear their Jekyll or Hyde Guernsey. So for mine, Glenelg by 5 goals.
All right, Dars.
Oh, 100%. I think Glenelg in fantastic form. I can't even recall the Roosters playing Friday night. Phil, was that right? Under lights? Have they played under lights?
No,
before,
I think there's an issue with the fixture there. They're definitely down as Saturday at Prospect.
Saturday, okay.
Saturday the 10th of August,
I'm
2:10 at Prospect.
My apologies. The time is coming up
it-
for mine, and I did the math for me, and it was wrong one. Okay.
Local time for you, Donnie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's local. Well, it's got it because I'm actually may keep an eye on this. I'm not sure because I know that one is at least for me. It's Saturday afternoon for you now that I do my time difference correctly, and it has it at 11:40 p.m. Friday night for me. That's why I was thinking Friday. So
Yeah.
So
All
never
good.
mind the American here.
All good.
My apologies on that one. I'm gonna tip the Tigers in this one. I agree with you. I think the Roosters are a little bit too inconsistent. Hoping the Tigers can get themselves cherry ripe ready for finals on this one. I know it's on the road, but I think the Glenelg Tigers should get this one here. Thomas Farms Oval sees Sturt take on the Central District's Bulldogs and a couple of teams fighting to improve their final spots. Can Sturt keep the win streak alive? Can the Doggies end the win streak? Fascinating one here. Darce, we'll start with you. Doggies, double Blues. Who do you like?
This is going to be a ball terror of a game. I mean, we're talking, the top 4 now. So look, if it was at Centrals, I would be picking the Bulldogs because it was at Unley, huge crowd. Sturt love playing at Unley. I'm going to pick Sturt by about 2 goals, I reckon. It's going to be a one crack of a game, match of the round.
All righty, Phil. Doggies, man, can they pull it off?
Yeah, well, I'm calling this one for the first time at Unley this year. I haven't been to Unley and I've only seen the Double Blues live once. So I'm really excited to obviously see the Dogs play, but also see the Double Blues up and firing in the flesh. And I talked about that long-standing run that Sturt have got a bit of a wood over Central Districts in the last 10 games. Sturt have won 9 of them, and the Dogs haven't won down at Unley, I think, for 4 or 5 years now. So I'm going to go with the head and not the heart and think Sturt will win. The Dogs are going to have probably a couple of serious players out. Manny Liddy, a former Double Blue, ironically, copped a bit of a lacerated knee in the game against Norwood a fortnight ago and got it infected, actually, and ended up spending time in hospital. So he's been a great pickup for the Dogs in the last few years. I don't think he'll come up despite a bye this weekend, just gone. And young Cade Dittmar, a recruit from the WAFL, he's out with an ankle injury as well. So I think the Dogs' depth will be tested, and the Double Blues for mine should get the points at home.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Unfortunately, as they said, the Unley will curse for the Doggies on this one. I think Sturt get the win, hoping the Doggies keep it as a nice competitive matchup on that one. We jump to an interesting one at Adelaide Oval as the West Adelaide Bloods take on the Adelaide Crows. Funny that they have West Adelaide put as the home side, but the game's at Adelaide Oval. I'm not gonna think about that one too much. On that, we'll go to you, Phil. Bloods v Crows reserves. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, well, I can explain the change to Adelaide Oval. Initially, this was going to be a home game for the Neil Curley Memorial Cup. So Neil Curley, of course, has great history in South Australian football, but of course, in particular at both clubs. Last year, this corresponding game was played up in Murray Bridge. West Adelaide made the financial decision to have it as a home game. They sell it as a home game. Adelaide technically are the home team per se, but West Adelaide will get a portion of the gatekeepings and make it a home game for them. It'll be the curtain raiser to the Adelaide AFL versus Western Bulldogs game, which should be a cracking contest as well. And look, you'd think in form lines, you'd go for the Crows. West Adelaide have shown some form at times, but have been a bit patchy in recent weeks. So I'm going to tip Adelaide by 3 or 4 goals in this one.
Mm-hmm. All right, Darth.
This is the real danger for both Eagles and North, because obviously if Adelaide win, which there's probably a good chance they are, and I'm going to back them, but Eagles for some reason lose and so do North. Well, this is this is where the position for that fifth spot really comes down to it. So Adelaide for me, and if they do win, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Eagles and North if whatever happens to them. So following on that one, there, Coach, it's Coach Donny. We've got Port and Eagles, so I'm praying, got my big Eagles hat on now, that we are going to knock off Port, because they're having a slow year. There's no doubt at Alberton Oval, and I think they get good crowds there. Even in SANFL, they still get good crowds down at Alberton Oval, even though it's the Port Reserve. So it's going to be a tough game for the Eagles, but I think we'll still get over the line.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm going to tip the Crows in this one. West Adelaide is it. I'm being a commemorative game, maybe they'll get a step up onto it. I think the Crows a little bit more used to the confines of the Adelaide Oval in this one, so Crows win this one, but I think it's tight. We'll jump to it. As Darce just said, Alberton Oval sees the Woodville West Torrens Eagles looking to finally get off a schneid of a losing streak against a Port Adelaide team that has been struggling. Can they do it, Phil? Can they end the losing streak?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, not just for Darcy's sake, but I think also the fact that they're too good a side to not, and Source Jacobs will want to get an answer back from the poor showing in recent times. I've only met him a few times, but by all reports, obviously a great guy. But I have this funny feeling he probably flogged the guys on the track during the week. I know some clubs had some time off and spent time going back home, but I suspect that he would have put a bit of work into them on the track just to get them physically right and mentally right. Port Adelaide are the great unknown, aren't they? We saw what their AFL side did and dismantled Donny Swans last Saturday night. There's some talk that there'll be some good players coming back from injury. I think Ivan Soldo's not far away from returning. So he comes in. You know, Jared Redden's been rested in recent weeks. He'll probably have to come back in and play for the Eagles. So this one, probably a bit of a flip of the coin, but I've got an Eagles commemorative coin, and it's come up the green, gold, and blue for you, Das.
Nice, I like it.
I will make it 3 for 3. I'm going to tip the Eagles in this one again. I like Port. Yvonne Soldel to be interesting. Do they put him straight back into the AFL side, or do they keep it Jordan Sweet, who I think has been playing pretty good footy for them, which would be quite the addition for Port if Soldo was playing seconds. But I still think Eagles a little bit more consistent in the SANFL level. Good chance here on the road. You can band together to fight against as you go in a hostile territory. Hoping Sauce Jacobs can get that off the snide, because as I agree, I think they're too good a team to be playing the footy that they're playing right now. So I will tip the Eagles as well to make things very, very interesting. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That is all 3 rounds. That is all 3 rounds covered. That is another round tipped. We are 3 rounds away from the finals. It has been fantastic. Phil, I want to jump to you really, really quickly, because I'm going to kind of go off topic just the tiniest bit. Is I know that you've worked with Wharf Radio, and with the AFLW coming up, I must ask, sir, are you going to get a chance to call a few AFLW games this year for Wharf Radio?
Yeah, in the background, Donny, we've been working hard away with our SA coordinator, Phil Hurden. He's a great colleague of ours across South Australian radio, and a few ex commercial radio guys, Chris Kendall, John Nankiville, guys that are doing some SANFL Now footy. We're ready to go. Basically, just for those that don't know, Wharf Radio is an online audio stream only, and we're dubbed from the AFL as a complimentary broadcaster. So when ABC, when 5AA, when the commercial radio stations in Adelaide are choosing not to cover it, we're called up upon. So we are literally a week-by-week proposition. We do know that we'll get at least 3 or 4 games, because there's some Tuesday night and Wednesday night games as well. So pencil us in by all means. I'm calling some trial games for the AFL website for AFLW, and I've been doing the under-18s championships as well. But yeah, by all means, mate, Wharf Radio, we're here in South Australia now. We've got a platform. We called the SANFLW Grand Final, as you know, and we hope to be around as long as the AFL need us. We'll be there to call the AFLW.
Good on you.
Well, I should really know you and your cohorts gave me 2 shout outs in that particular podcast, which I had to chuckle, because to go off of it and to kind of go off the SANFL theme a little bit, the SANFLW theme a little bit, is I've had the pleasure over the last couple of weeks to talk with superstar Jess Bates and with Norwood superstar Kiana Lee over the last couple of weeks. So those of you that are Glenelg fans or Norwood fans, give a chance and hop on the channel and give those young ladies some support and check out their interviews. I enjoyed both conversations. They're both lovely young ladies, fantastic footy players. It was a truly an honor to be able to sit down and have a chat with them. I am currently got one scheduled for another Woodville West Torrens player. The fantastic Poppy Waterford has agreed to come on the podcast. We're still confirming when we're going to do it. It sounds like it could be very, very soon. So I'm looking forward to that. I know Darce has told me pre-mic that she's quite the character. So I'm looking forward to that conversation
Amazing. Yeah, get the
as
dump button ready too, mate. But no, she
I'm going to let it go free. It is perfectly
absolutely.
fine.
She's a gold. She is absolutely gold.
As I've said on a few podcasts, I love that the Australians will let their feelings be known live. Like I said, I know it's 2016, the Swans lose it, but Brian Taylor dropping the Magic during a
Yes,
grand final call
love
on
it.
Triple M is still one of my favorite calls of all time, purely
Big boy
because
F bomb.
purely because of the fact that the entire box absolutely loses their mind as he says it. Oh my
Yep,
God, he dropped the Magic. He dropped the Magic.
yep,
It is
yep.
hilarious to me
Yeah,
because when you listen to sports over here, if you drop the Magic on accident, you're fired or you're at least
mm,
suspended. Over
yep.
there, it's, hey, mate, don't do that
Part of
again.
the vocabulary.
Yeah.
And
That's
guys,
it.
just quickly as a sample W segue, because great that you're going to get Poppy on and someone I know you've probably had a little bit of workings with in the background, and a good segue to say a final close off and congratulations to Shelby Smith. I was lucky enough to do the SANFL voiceover for their women's best and fairest, and Shelby won an amazing fifth best and fairest in a row. I
Mm,
think that'll be
I saw that.
unprecedented,
yeah,
not at Central Districts alone, but in the SANFL W. So now she'll have a bit more time on her hands, Donny. I'm sure she'll be keen for a catch up. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to again say
absolutely.
congratulations, Shelby. You are an ornament of the game at women's level, and I think you'll go down in history as one of the best I've ever seen.
Well, I have to wait on her, purely and simple.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the offer is there. I would love to have her on. I think she's an absolutely amazing, amazing footy player and an amazing person. Just everything that she does. Again, I know that she's probably stepping away purely to have family time, but it's been an incredible honor to watch her over the last couple of seasons. She's an incredibly tough, strong midfielder. So much fun to watch. So I'm 100% with you. I saw that she won another best and fairest. I've been meaning to message her and congratulate her on that again. I saw the pictures from it. She looked absolutely fantastic. It was an amazing night for sure. And
yep.
again, I'm working on trying to get more play. I'm working on trying to get more players. I know that it's so much fun during this time of the year to be able to talk with these SANFL W young women because they're absolutely magnificent people. They have great stories of battling through it, being able to do that, and the stories are so much fun. So I cannot wait. Poppy is going to be fantastic. Like I said, I hoping to get Shelby very, very soon. Again, no rush. She's got
Good
a family
stuff.
to take care of. So definitely for sure on that one. So that is going to do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals. Again, keep track, more footy coverage coming. Again, we're getting closer and closer to finals in all of the competitions that I cover, which is going to make for some long weekends for me. But you know what? I absolutely love it. So that'll be it for Donnie's Disposals. We'll be back again very, very soon with more footy coverage in your ears very, very soon. Oops.